Republicans are ripping into President Biden for doing nothing to stop the border surge. Not a thing. So migrants are streaming in like crazy. Total crossings are at a 20-year high, and a record number of unaccompanied minors were picked up by Border Patrol. Republicans are finally asking and saying enough is enough. Take a look.
The Biden administration has been anti-wall and AWOL.
How could President Biden and Kamala Harris allow this to go on and not even come here and see it for themselves?
This is a humanitarian crisis, and I can't even in good conscience call President Biden president. I have to call him trafficker in chief.
And Texas Governor Greg Abbott is demanding the Biden administration investigate allegations of child abuse at a border facility.
These horrific images and tragic deaths, as well as assaults that we're seeing right now, they would not be happening if the Biden administration had not opened up the border and been completely unprepared for the massive influx of the young migrant children that they are enticing to come across the border.
And we're just learning Biden's border czar is stepping down as the crisis grows. So, Geraldo, I want to come to you first. We have allegations of Joe Biden, being a guy who's out of control at the border. We have little kids who are, raped and abused on the way north. We have kids dying in the desert, kids dying in the Rio Grande. Now there's allegations in a border facility that, little kids are being sexually assaulted. Isn't this policy heartless from Joe Biden?
I have to first say, Sean, that Florida Congresswoman who's new to the job, calling the President of the United States the human trafficker in chief is lowbrow. It's low down and dirty. It's disgusting. I mean, how dare she to accuse him of child rape and supporting and collaborating in this hideous crimes. I mean, it's absolutely horrible. Joe Biden is guilty of naivete and incompetence. We have to restart the wall right now. It should be part of a big deal with the Democrats where the Dreamers get a pathway to citizenship and the wall restarts. But to call the President of the United States this despicable a slur is beyond the pale. I mean, is this where we are now in politics in America, where you can call the President of the United States complicit in child rape? I mean, that's to me, it's almost impeachable. It's not protected by the First Amendment. This Congresswoman went way over the cliff.
But Geraldo, we just had 4 years of the other side labeling Republicans Nazis and comparing Trump to Hitler almost every other hour. This is nothing compared to what anybody on the right has endured. I agree with you, though. It doesn't help the conversation. But to act outraged over this, you must have been asleep for 4 years. And I know you weren't, because you were on this show, Geraldo. I saw you here.
But I was sleepwalking.
Yes, and I think you might have even called me a couple of names. But can I? Since I'm already talking, I just saw something
Greg.
I just saw that Biden is considering sending cash to Central America to kind of persuade people not to come to Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, giving them money, paying them not to come. So it's kind of a win-win. If you come here, you're going to get free services, but if you stay home, you're going to get paid. I mean, can they do this to me? Like if I say on this show that I want to go to Canada, I know Canada wouldn't want that. Would they pay me to stay in the United States? Yeah, I know, Jillian. They would not let me come.
I just checked. They don't want you.
Yes.
I'm sorry to be the one to tell you.
So how much are they going to pay me? $500?
$0. I'm texting Canada right now. I'll get you an answer.
But Jillian, I want you to respond to Geraldo. I mean, I do think a lot of Americans, a lot of Republicans look at the policy that has allowed so many migrants to come to our border, and it's Biden's policy, and these kids are being sex trafficked and sold into indentured servitude. Why shouldn't that fall at the feet of Joe Biden?
Well, the big story now, Sean, especially if what Governor Greg Abbott has told us is true, which is that more than one child has been sexually assaulted while in U.S. border care, is that the big story is now the fact that the U.S. government writ large is failing dismally at its duty to protect foreign children that it takes into its custody. They have a legal obligation to ensure that these children are, number one, safe and protected from predators, and number two, to ensure that they're healthy and that they're not unnecessarily subjected to communicable diseases while they're in U.S. custody. We know that at some of these facilities at the border, COVID transmission rates are 15%. So I think the story now becomes not so much, I mean, look, assigning blame is always an important part of policy and politics, but the story now is not so much who exactly, but acknowledgement that we've got this epic problem on our hands and that the U.S. government is failing writ large.
And success would be making sure kids stay home with their parents in these Northern Triangle countries instead of going on this horrific journey. But Katie, I want to come to you because the amount of money that we're going to pay to house migrant children is $3.1 billion. That's 4 times the amount we spent through the Small Business Administration to actually help small businesses recover from COVID. This is insane, isn't it?
The money is insane. The consequences are insane. But I want to respond to Geraldo. If we're going to solve this problem, you have to deal in reality of what's going on. And you can put politics aside, but there are consequences for Joe Biden's policy positions on the border. I'm in Arizona. I was out with the Pinal County Sheriff's Department yesterday looking at smuggling routes, looking at what they're leaving behind, hearing what they're talking about. And it is now more lucrative for drug cartels in Mexico to be trafficking human beings than it is for them to be trafficking drugs. This is no longer about enabling people to come to America for a better way of life. This is about enabling a multi-billion-dollar trafficking industry and smuggling industry where human beings are a commodity that are worth more money than smuggling drugs. And on the issue of the accusation that Joe Biden is complicit in the trafficking, he is. These policies we know for years, open border policies enable trafficking, they enable smuggling, and the federal government is allowing people in these Northern Triangle countries to take their child, give them to a smuggler. That's one step. The smuggler then takes the child to the border, second step, and then DHS takes that child and delivers them to wherever their phone number is or to a sponsor family that hasn't necessarily been fully vetted. So they're completing the smuggling ring on behalf of this billion-dollar industry. Those are the facts. A lot of what happens on the border is not easy to stomach, but if we're going to solve this problem, we can't act like it's not happening. And that's the reality of what's happening on the ground.
Yeah, that's right, Katie.
Well, when you call the President of the United States a trafficker, you're destroying your own intellectual argument because that's all you focus on. It's ridiculous.
No one said he was a trafficker. We're saying his policies enabled trafficking and smuggling, which is a fact if you talk to anybody who's involved in what's going on here, including the traffickers,
and he could
by the
stop
way.
the trafficking on day 2 if he would just implement Donald Trump's policies on the border. This would be over if he cared about kids. But great discussion, guys. Up next is the fastest.